And then, yep, no, I'm gonna lose. But if you watch me after this week, I promise you, I will win it all. If I would have taken it all, I will have won it all. But this week, I'm gonna lose. Welcome to Fantasy Football. Football is thicker than blood. Week playoffs. Sony, I want that video in. I want playoffs. Playoffs week 1. We got 4 teams out. 8 teams made it. We knew who was going to be in. I hope to have a great show for you and have multiple people on. The first of many. You know him. He's always on. Will be C Mac Attack. Colin, how are we doing today?
We are doing amazing, baby. Playoffs.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs?
Playoffs.
And obviously very familiar.
NIT.
Excuse me. It's playoffs. Colin, obviously this year a little rough for you not be able to make it, but you still are a 2-time champion. We have a lot coming from you today, but just real quick, season recap. What are your thoughts?
Oh man, we had 2 new rookies.
Yep.
That was exciting to see how that would play out. We had the defending champ. You always got to watch out for him.
Yep.
And we had a dominant force in the league.
Yep.
It's always good to have that established, dominant force, which we all know was you.
Yep.
We had some bottom feeders, and really a bottom feeder.
Yep.
And, I thought it was a fun year, and we had a little bit of everything. We didn't really have that public enemy really doing too much and talking too much like he usually does, keeping us all on our toes.
Sure.
But we had some of that from some others, so
Yep.
That was fun. But, yeah, it was a fun year.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Had a lot of fun. A very competitive year, high-scoring year. As Sean almost broke the record, beat the record as well. We have one of our newbies in the playoffs, his first ever, first ever solo independent. We know he ran Uncle Pat's team last year. And then obviously Nate getting the bad side of that, not making the playoffs. Uncle Joe having a rough year. It's not much he can do with injuries and bad luck. Phil losing the second overall pick. He didn't even play a game. Again, like every year, playoffs, it's anybody's game. I think that all 8 of these teams, I'll go into it sometime later in the show, I think, but all of them have a shot at winning it all. I really don't know. I mean, there are a lot of good teams.
I know.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. You have our odds, I believe, for the championship, as well as some trophies you want to give out, Colin. I mean, how do you want to run things here?
I got my annual awards. So we got the awards show.
Yep. Tony, awards. Okay.
So we got the awards. Welcome to the awards show, FDTV Awards. I'm your host, C-Mac Attack.
Oh, this is my show. Stop. No.
The number 3 seed in the NIT. Okay, so, I wrote some stuff out. So
Okay.
I wrote out who had the highest scoring matchup of all the teams in each week, so the high scores. So, Jake, you finished with 6 high scores.
Yeah, I saw that. I was telling Joe that the other day, which is nuts.
Yeah, and that's like half the week. Every other week, you were the high scorer. And I don't know why we all scored so much more this year. Is it because we changed, the scoring?
No, scoring is up in the NFL in general.
Oh, okay.
So that's why. I mean, we have an additional team, right? So you'd think scoring would actually go down. But I believe because scoring is just so much up in the NFL, and we just have, there's so many.
Yeah.
There's a lot of teams going, 2 running backs, are using 2 wide receivers type of thing. Every team has a decent quarterback now. Scoring is just up in the league, and so it's reflected here.
Yeah, so you finished the season with 6 high scores, and then I'll read off everybody who had a high score. Sean finished with 2 high scores.
Okay.
And then Elgin, Yogurt Merch, Cole, Dad Bods, and Joe Ventus all finished one week with a high score.
Okay.
So I guess that leaves me, Birch Lake, Phil, Bad Patty. that didn't get a high score.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Sean brought this up to me. Nate had the highest score of all time in our league this year, and was still even out of the playoffs.
I was going to get to that. The top score of any week was 165. Did that break a record?
Yeah, that's the record.
Broke a record.
Yep.
165 it is.
Congratulations, Nate.
So he gets an award for that. You
Okay.
get an award for, your 6 weeks or whatever.
That's insane.
Okay.
6 weeks, guys. 6 weeks. God, that's
I wrote
insane.
out like 15 awards. So
Oh.
we'll go through them real quick.
Yeah.
Most improved.
Yeah.
Jake and Bay.
Yep.
Because he finished 4-9 last year.
Yep.
And finished 10-3 this year.
Yep.
So
Thank you.
most improved, Jake and Bay.
Yeah, thank you.
The biggest disappointment. This could go a couple other ways, but I gave it to me.
Yep.
The biggest disappointment. I think most people would agree.
Yep.
I finished 8-5 last season. I'm a 2-time champ.
Yep.
And I finished 4-9 and third seed in the NIT
Yep.
this year.
Yeah. I mean, congrats to you though, Colin.
I mean, it's not an award. It's just an acknowledgement. Rookie of the year and biggest surprise,
Cole McGann-Bell.
Cole McGann-Bell.
I would totally agree. Congrats to
Big
Cole.
clap when you're a rookie. That is. That's
He's
a
been
big
Conor
deal.
McGregoring it all year, and he's been showing. He's one of the higher scorers. His team's doing well, and he's definitely a playoff threat.
McCaffrey has really become one of the best.
Yep.
Okay, the best defense.
Cole McGann-Bell.
Dad bod.
Oh, okay.
He's only given up 1,157 points against.
Yeah.
So the least amount of points against. You can debate whether or not you have control over that, but
You do.
nonetheless,
Yeah.
best defense.
Best defense. Dad bots. Tony.
Good job, Tony.
Let's go, Tony.
Worst defense was me. I gave up the most points. Best offense, Jason Bake. Set a record this year, 1,564 points. I think he beat it by almost 300.
So it was 1390. So I beat it by 166 or something like that.
Almost 200.
Yeah. And so, I believe it's 120 points a game, which.
Yeah, let's round up.
Yeah.
200.
Yeah.
Or you beat his record by about 200. So
Yep.
you're saying you scored about 120 points per game?
Yep.
Okay, that's pretty good.
It was like
think I
106
scored that
before, I
114.
think. Was when Sean or Joe, I forget who had it, 1390 comes out to like 106 points a game or something like that.
Okay. Worst offense, Bad Patty.
Bad Pat-
832.
That might be a low. And Uncle Joe kind of gave up a little bit, so it's hard to say. And, he hasn't really been changing his roster or much. And then, somebody should tell him because he's got to go for this first overall pick this year. And I don't know if he knows that the rules changed.
Well, I think it was Bad Patty actually took over the reins of his team.
Yeah, it would make sense because it looked like somebody drunk was running it.
Yeah. Okay, so the draft of the year.
Draft, okay.
The draft of the year. Who had the best draft? And taking that into consideration, how they did. Dad bod. Draft of the year, because he only has 3 players on his team currently that he got off free agency.
Okay.
And I think he only did that because to fill a bye week or something.
Yeah, I was looking at the draft the other day. He drafted Antonio Brown in the first round, which is kind of nuts. Figuring that, seeing that most teams are going to take a running back. It's not as many running backs in this year, and he's one of the lower, if not the lowest, scoring playoff team, and obviously, as you said, one of the best defenses. Oh, the second lowest, Uncle Pat. But it's paid off for him, and Dad Bod's looking for his first championship.
Yeah, I even think he said, like, one episode where he doesn't draft the running back like we all do in the first round. He does something different.
Mm-hmm.
So
it pays off for him.
Yeah. And comparing that, so all of his players on his team are all guys he drafted except 3. Comparing that to me, only 1 player on my team was actually from my draft.
Right, but you've always been somebody to
They
finagle your
were all
roster.
free agency or trade.
Yep.
So.
Not surprising at all.
Yep, I'm in NIT, so there goes that strategy. Okay, most trades. I got the award for most trades.
Yeah.
11 total, and the second most was Joe Romano, Public Enemy, with 5.
Okay.
I don't know if that's an award. That's just a stat.
Yep.
Most acquisitions, Joventus was 35.
Interesting.
So he's the most active, yeah.
Interesting. And most of his roster stayed pretty much, his core has stayed seemingly steady other than the Davante Adams trade. But he's had Breeze and Kamara, year round, and Kelsey year round. And those seem to be the core of his team. But 35 for Joventus is, he's always been looking for the next big thing. And he's talked about how he's missed it a couple times. He had Aaron Jones. Obviously, he traded Davante Adams or Matt Breida. I think there was another guy who he wanted and dropped, and they ended up going off too. Maybe, yeah, I'm not sure exactly. But, yeah, it's very interesting. Looking for his first title as well.
And team name of the year. I think this should be an award every season.
Yep.
There were some new team names from the rookies, and, there were some other changes.
Yep.
But I'm still going to give the team name of the year. I think it's a back-to-back award to Team Bad Patty.
Yep. Team Bad Patty.
I agree. It is. Great team name.
It is. And I was supposed to have my team name changed every week as per our rule last year, but it hasn't been, and maybe I can skirt by that whole year. And who is it the team who finishes last or the team who finishes with the worst record? Because I guess
actually the way it was written in the rule, it's the team that finishes last in the regular season.
Okay, so
not overall.
Okay, so Team Bad Patty.
Bad Patty. He's gonna. Yep.
He will change his team next year to whoever is champion. Yep.
The clutch performance of the year.
Okay.
Goes to Elgin.
Elgin.
Who beat Yogurt Merch in Week 12. He needed to win that to stay in it. And also, if Elgin did not beat Yogurt Merch in Week 12, which is just 2 weeks ago, that would have caused chaos in the playoff picture. So, and it would have kept me in it, I think, somehow, and it would have screwed everything up. But he won that, and then the playoff picture was clear after that.
A pretty high-scoring team, Elgin is. I believe the third highest in the playoffs. He's riding a 4-game win streak, and people forget that he didn't even draft his team this year. So, but then again, he doesn't either every year. So
who did draft his team?
My buddy Harrison.
Random.
Maybe I'll get him on the show. My buddy Harrison.
Yeah, I mean, he should be considered like an owner in the league.
Yeah, maybe manager of the year.
Not family.
Or general manager of the year.
Yeah. All the credit, whatever happens to Elgin, even if he wins it all.
Yep.
All the credit should go to Harrison.
Yep.
Or Harris or whatever.
Yep.
Nah, you gotta get up to Elgin. He's been a good owner throughout the years, 2-time champ. Okay, a few more here, and then we'll get to odds. So, the best draft picks this season, I have a few. Just real quickly, they're all pretty good draft picks.
Yep.
So, Vice Fleet drafted Michael Thomas, the number 5 wide receiver, in the 13th round. That's a good value.
Well, I think he was a keeper, but yeah.
Still good value. Great keeper pick.
Yeah.
All right, Jared Goff was kept in round 11. He's the number 3 QB. He was kept by Elgin. Is that a keeper too?
I don't think so. I think he was drafted then.
All right, that's a
Harrison. Harrison again.
Patrick Mahomes by you. He's the number 1 overall fantasy football player, and you drafted him in the 10th round. Is that a keeper?
No, he's no, it's not.
Okay, so that was a good draft pick.
Thank you. Yeah, I know.
Probably the best one.
Yep.
And then Elgin again. He drafted Cooper Kupp, the number 1 wide receiver until he got hurt. But the number 1 wide receiver through 10 weeks, Cooper Kupp, who I have now on the IR. He drafted him in the 9th round. That was a pretty good pick.
Yeah, and again, I think we're seeing a theme here that Harrison is making a pretty strong bid for manager of the year, general manager of the year.
Pretty much, yeah. Okay, worst draft pick was, there's a couple, just 2.
Le'Veon
Bell by Phil was the 2nd overall pick, but Sean picked him up, so I guess you could say Sean made the worst draft pick.
Yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with that.
0 points this year.
Yep.
And then Vice Fleet drafted Leonard Fournette in the first round, and he turned out to be a pretty big bust this year.
You see, I would disagree. Leonard Fournette has been hurt for the majority of the year, so I mean, not much you can do. But when he's been playing, he has been pretty dominant of a force.
But he's been hurt half the year.
Yeah, so that hurts you, when you're hurt. But yeah, okay.
But is he hurt now?
So he was suspended one game, and he should be coming back this week.
So Fleet's got him for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Ooh, better watch out, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the owner of the year, gotta go to Jacob Bates.
So far.
Not only is he most improved, I know, but this is regular season,
Yep.
Like you get the Heisman, that's always announced.
Yeah, sure.
So you get the Heisman because you were not only the most improved player, which correlates to like best ownership and management, but you were also the top team and set some records with high scores and everything like that. And total overall scoring.
A pretty insane thing just to have. I think if you look at the all-time all of the players, the scoring, I believe Mahomes is 1 and Gurley's like 3 right now. So I mean, and that's of everybody, including quarterbacks and stuff. So I mean, when you got 2 top guys on your team like that, that's insane. In addition to James Conner's been very helpful. He's hurt this week too, though. That's going to hurt me. And then some wide receivers and whatnot. But yeah, it's been fun. And you have some championship odds for us, I believe?
Yeah, so let's get into that. Playoffs. Playoff odds. Tony?
Yep, Tony. Playoff odds?
Playoff odds. Okay, so we talked about the previous Super Bowl champs and what type of players they had on their team.
Sure.
The evidence that each Super Bowl champ had on their team. You either needed a top 3 running back.
Yep.
You didn't have that. Don't worry. You need the number 1 wide receiver.
Yep.
If you didn't have either of those, it's okay because you can still have an across-the-board roster with a top 5 quarterbacks, and then a combination of like top 10 wide receivers and running backs.
Yep.
So I went through each team and I looked at what each team had in the playoffs. If they had any of those requirements on their team that Super Bowl champions have had. So let's just go in order of seed. Jacob Bates, yes, you qualify for 2 out of those 3 categories.
Yep.
Top 3 RB you have.
Yep.
And you have an all-around roster.
Yep.
You have an 83% chance of winning the Super Bowl.
Okay. That's
pretty good.
Yeah. I think I'm okay.
Exactly 83.
Sure. Yeah. No rounding. I think I'm going to lose week 1, but that's sure.
The Vice Fleet?
Yeah. I mean, I'll go into it more in my segment, but it makes sense why. I think that
we'll see what happens with Leonard Fournette.
I will say this: I think that if I win this game, I think I will win the championship. But I don't think I'm going to win this game. The matchups are totally against me. I got all my players are playing like their hardest teams, and I got James Conner's hurt. And he's playing Oakland, and his matchups are pretty good. I'm the lowest I've ever been projected. I think I've been projected the highest every week, except for this week. Maybe not. Maybe the week I had Carson Wentz, or I had the Chiefs and the Rams had a bye. But I'll go into it later. Sorry, go on.
Okay. Dad Bod, he's the number 2 seed, right?
Yep.
Not Sean? Okay.
Yep.
He's got the tiebreaker?
Yep.
Okay. You have to change that.
Yep, I did already.
So Dad Bod actually does not qualify for either requirement.
Not even wide receiver.
But he's very close. No, he doesn't have a top 3 RB. He doesn't have the number 1 wide receiver. And he doesn't have an all-around roster.
But he does have a number 2 wide receiver.
He has number 2 wide receiver, so he's very close. So the playoffs count as part of this. So if Antonio Brown becomes the number 1 wide receiver throughout these playoffs and he wins the Super Bowl, that's why. It's probably because of Antonio Brown. So he's really close. But right now, this is right now,
sure.
What the odds are right now.
Sure.
So right now, he actually doesn't have it. So 0 out of 3 categories. So he has a 20% chance of winning.
Yep.
Winning it all. Duke of Berkshire, he's the 3rd seed. He fulfills 1 out of 3 requirements because he has a top 3 running back.
Yep.
70% chance to win the playoffs. Pretty good.
Yep.
bulletin board material, he's the 4th seed. He does not fulfill either requirement, but he does have the number 4 running back
In
Christian
who's
McCaffrey.
getting
So
hot.
he could,
Yep.
depending how he performs, he could have that top 3 running back that he needs. So, but right now he does not. So the number 5 seed is Elgin. He does not fulfill any of the requirements. He has a 20% chance, but he's close to having an all-around roster.
Yeah, it's really close.
Yeah, like he's got 2 receivers or something that are like number 13 and number 12.
Yeah, and Zeke is good, and Jared Goff's up there.
He's got Zeke, yeah, and Jared Goff. That's why he's close.
Yeah, and like Nick Chubb hasn't played the whole year, but if you've taken what he's played, you know, he could easily be a top 5 running back.
So his odds right now are 20%.
Yeah. He's gonna say something about
And you
that.
got Joe Ventus, number 6 seed. He has 1 of 3 requirements. He has a top 3 running back. So he's got a 57% chance. Joe Ventus.
Okay.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Public Enemy, the 7th seed. He has a 64% chance
Yep.
as the 7th seed because he's got the number 1 wide receiver,
In Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill, and he's very close to having all around as well.
Yep.
So,
And
then
Birch.
Mike Fleet finishes it off. He does not fulfill any of the 3. He's not very close with either of them. But especially at running back.
Well, he's got Roethlisberger, who's the number 2 quarterback.
Yeah, he's the number 2 quarterback, but the only other thing he's got is the number 5 wide receiver, Michael Thomas. Other than that, like,
And Fournette, you know,
yeah,
if he's playing.
you know, we'll see what happens. That's unknown.
Yep.
But he has a 17%, so he has very low, the lowest, 17% chance. So he could defy the odds and make history. David versus Goliath, first round.
And yep.
All of the odds are against Vice Fleet.
Yeah, and I think he's gonna do it still.
So this could be a Hollywood ending.
Yep.
We don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But Tony, be ready to make a documentary film or something about this fantasy football FTTV season.
Yep.
Especially if Vice Fleet wins it all. So here are the final results of the odds. Jake and Bake.
Yep.
83%.
I don't like that.
70%, and so on and so forth. You can pause it if you need to recap these odds. If you want to play some bets in Vegas, if you put money on Vice Fleet, you may not get your money back, but if you win, and he
Big
wins,
payout.
Big payout.
Big payout. Yeah. Well, that's why playoffs are so exciting. It's anybody's game. I'm very excited to see it. Colin, thank you as always. Great research. Very excited. See, we've only one seed. Only one number 1 seed has ever won it before. So I mean, odds are usually against them. What'd you say?
I have those stats somewhere too.
That's right. I'm right on that.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it was me. And so,
No,
I mean...
2 number 1 seeds have won it all.
Oh, really? Who else?
Yep. Uncle Joe, he was 10-3.
Oh, really?
3 years ago.
I didn't know
And
that.
you were 10-3.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Let's see, a number 2 seed has never won it, so Dad Bodge,
Yeah.
odds are looking against you. Odds are looking against Dad Bodge, you know. in a lot of
Especially
ways.
with the defense and less scoring. But, you know, again, playoffs are anybody's game. Colin, any last comments, suggestions? Obviously, you're in the NIT. Best of luck. We'll try and cover that a little bit this show. And
Yeah, should I tank? Should I tank it, or should I try and win it all? Because I have to give my first-round pick.
to Joe Romano.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
It'd be great to get some votes on the text messaging.
Yeah. Could do whatever you
Let me
want.
know what you guys think. Should I tank it and get the number 4 pick, or should I go for the number 1 pick for Joe Romano?
Yeah, you could. Very well could. That'd be huge for Joe Romano next year. Obviously, the first overall pick having pretty big implications early this year, depending on who's drafting. Colin, thank you as always for coming on. And I think I'm going to have hopefully more on this show. But Colin, best of luck in the NIT this week. And I'll talk to you soon. And let's go to our next segment, maybe.
Okay. Thank you, Jake.
We now welcome on Sean McGann, former commissioner, Duke of Berkshire, playoff former champion, and playoff member this year. Sean, thank you for coming on. How are you doing?
Good. It's good to be here.
Oh, and you're flashing the bling. It's looking beautiful. Can we see that for the camera as well, please?
Right there. Yeah.
Now that is your own, correct?
We're in a new facility. This one?
That ring is your own. That's not the new one.
Yeah, no, it's mine. No.
Okay, yeah.
The new one's
okay.
it's in the vault.
Sure, of course. Good. Just making sure.
Here at the vault in the new facility, Berkshire facility.
Yeah, multi money, a new facility. It's a lot of money. A brand new facility.
Yeah, let's just leave it at that. We don't want to talk too much about it.
Yeah, I mean you don't want to talk it's gonna hurt people's feelings, and
we don't like to flaunt.
Lots of renovations.
We don't like to flaunt.
No, not at all.
Stuff,
It's beautiful. Love seeing you there. And so we got you on to talk about some keepers. Obviously, it's going to be a big week.
Yeah,
big time.
Just to not necessarily go through all the rules because thankfully the forefathers are getting together to draft up the Constitution.
Forefathers.
Stuff on paper. Forefathers.
Yeah.
Founding fathers. I don't know.
Whatever Colin wants to pretend he has a
framers,
powerful role, but he doesn't because I have all the power.
Draft up constitutions, but I wanted to say that we're not really a keeper league. When we put this thing together, the design was to have a franchise league, and what we mean by that is you can build up multiple players that you keep year after year, right? So you get some consistency in your team, you get some personality that stays on your team over a long period of time, and also really to reward good management. People who are able to find high value players in lower parts of the draft. And then the other side of it is, so we want you to be able to build out your team and build it out over a long period of time and get good players and be able to retain them. Mm-hmm. But we also want to make the draft relevant, right? So if you don't get, a Le'Veon Bell or
Todd Gurley,
in an early draft where you can lock him in for a long period of time, and all of a sudden, you're the champion for a decade. We don't want that situation either, right? So we've also put in provisions to keep the top talent eligible for the draft, but reward the owners that find high value players. So that's why we designed it the way we have, right? So if we look at the new owners, Cole and Nate, they're going to be able to retain a single player, which is good for this year.
Yep.
Once you've retained a player for that year, they're on your franchise. They're one of your franchise players. And you can retain your franchise players for as long as you want to, up until the point that they'll cost you a first-round pick. Every year, they'll cost you one pick higher. So if you drafted them in the 12th round and you decide to keep them, they'll be in the 11th round next year, 10th round, all the way up until you decide to cut them, or they hit a first-round pick and you got to let them go, right?
Yeah.
We thought through it at the beginning, to make sure that, like I said, the talent pool is up, so you can't keep your top two scorers. We also thought through some of the things that Joe Romano might do, like pick up extra quarterbacks so that it protects the players. So we put in the provision where one of your top two scorers has to be a non-quarterback player.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of caveats in there like that make it a little bit more complicated than I think most people would like, but I also think it keeps it fun. So.
Definitely. And I think there's a couple things that one question that I just thought of. So a rule that some people might not be familiar with is that you can keep. Let's say that two players would take up your third round pick. You can keep both players.
Yeah.
Given that one was a pass keeper and.
Yeah, right. That was one we never actually wrote down. I actually thought through that one. And the goal, again, is to reward owners, not to punish them, right?
Yes.
So if you have two people that you're allowed to keep and you're allowed to keep both players together, and you've got them both for third-round picks, then the rule is going to be that you can keep one for the third-round pick and you can keep the next one for the fourth-round pick. I think that's pretty fair for them. But the next year, they're both going to cost you a second-round pick. So if you retain them again, it's going to be a 2 and a 3, so on and so forth.
And what about firsts? Let's say you could keep two people for first. Would it be first and second, and then the next year it's first and second again?
They both, if they were both second pick the year before, right, and they're going to be first picks, then it'd be 1 and 2.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And hypothetically, you could continue to keep them.
Either of them.
Yeah. Exactly. And another rule that we've talked about recently that maybe some people might not know or may have assumed, but we're talking about fixing or changing, is that keeper rights do not they don't transfer over transitions, acquisitions during the season, but outside the season they do.
This was the laziness provision, we can call it, in
yes.
the original keeper rules. It was really for two things. It was one, to not have the commissioner such a burden of tracking the
commissioner being you.
During this, being me at the time,
yes.
right? And just when we developed the rules,
sure.
I don't want to have to keep track of that stuff in the season. We
of course.
Ended the season. We put the keeper list together, and then people could trade away. And then once people make their keeper decisions, the season starts. Then that's the end of that. And if you trade a player, drop a player, their keeper rights dissolve, and that's it. So whoever has that player for that season, that's who they have. But there has been a lot of transactions this year, more trades this year than ever. Two things were up this year: scoring, and trades.
Yes.
And Colin, you broke the record, blasted the record for points, and Colin's blasted the record for number of trades in this season.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's made it fun. And I know that some people were thinking about, the retained players and thinking the retention rights, pass on. So, one, that wasn't the rule because some of us have been operating under the, know the rule and weren't making trades with that in mind, or
yes.
proposing trades with that in mind, and some people were. So, fair thing we're going to do, propose a rule change, and if everyone votes on it, we'll make it retroactive to this year. So, we can go and keep track of that stuff if everyone agrees. So I think that's the right way to do it.
Definitely.
Probably, could make things interesting going forward.
Definitely,
so.
yeah. And like Cole's team, for example, he'd technically be able to keep Odell as well as somebody else if that rule proposition goes through.
And if the rule doesn't go through for whatever reason, Cole still could keep Odell. He just would only be able to keep
Odell. Correct. Yeah. Correct. I think we have a lot of rule propositions that are going to come this year. I know multiple people have been talking to me. Obviously, Colin drafting up the rubric about how we're going to rule certain things and penalize other things. I don't like it because it doesn't allow me to make up what punishments and be super biased and be corrupt. But some people get frustrated with that, and I know speaking commish to commish right here, I'm sure you are frustrated with that as well. Not being able to. I just
don't like the fact I can't make up all the rules.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I don't know what this whole the people have rights. We the owners. It's dumb. I've never understood it.
Set your lineups.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I'll do the draft. And then the rest is that's my one gift to you. And then the rest I get to set up.
Honestly, that's the hardest part of the job.
It is. Especially when you're Odell is not free in the 11th round, Uncle Pat. You can't draft him because it's not that everybody missed him. Yeah. He's just undraftable.
Or whoever's on auto draft.
No. This is one thing I like about talking to a former commish. You know the struggles. Not everybody knows how difficult my life is. You think I'm going to work and actually working? No, I'm grinding on fantasy football. And for you guys.
Yeah, not only commissioner, but you're trying to run your own team too.
I know. I'm saying. I mean, it's almost a miracle that I'm able to win a championship, be commissioner, make up all the rules, have the highest scoring team, have the best team of all time to win a championship. It's
it's no wonder there's so many rumors that you fixed it.
Yeah, I know. It's unbelievable. I just don't get it. But there's going to be a lot of rule propositions this year. I'm excited. I know people have talked about PPR, decimal, obviously the acquisitions, trading only players, that type of thing, instead of money, although we haven't seen that yet. But, Sean, that's all for the summer.
That's right.
We have...
It'll be an interesting offseason.
It will be. But now we have the playoffs, and you are in it once again, in the hunt, looking for a become a two-time champion.
I think I've only missed the playoff once.
Yep.
I got the number one pick, and I turned that into a championship. So.
Mm-hmm. And Joventus pretends like his team is the winningest team of all time, even though he hasn't won a championship. You're playing Joventus in the first round. Joe Romano pointed out that
it's like he's the best regular season player.
Yeah, it's something. Yeah. I've always made the playoffs, but he hasn't ever won. Well, he's got his chance again this year. Joventus.
You know what we call those?
Chokes. Yep. And he has his chance to predict his own game. I have a feeling he's not going to. He started off 6-0, lost 6 straight, and then just coming off a win last week. What are your thoughts going into this game, Sean?
Well, I mean, to me, you look across the board, and it's I think he's got probably a step up in quarterback. I can argue running backs depending on the matchups. Yep. And I do think I've got a little bit of an advantage in the wide receiver, provided everyone's healthy and plays. DeAndre Hopkins is he's just a staple. You know, he's Mr. Dependable as far as wide receivers. Amari Cooper he's getting a ton of targets and looks.
And Dallas is picking it up.
Continue, and if he can find the end zone, I think that's going to be a really good step. Ebron, what can you say about him? A great tight end. We'll see what Spencer Ware can do for me in the flex position, but you go line by line. You could probably flip a coin for some of these. So I think it's going to come down to into New Orleans and who's going to get the points at the running back position. If Ingram, has one of his 19 or 20 point games that he has, because it's either that, right? He's either single digits or he's 20 points. Yeah. And if he can, be on the right side of that, then I'm going to win. And if not, then I'm not going to win. If Kamara gets those points, so that's where I'm at. It really is going to depend on Ingram. He's had 2 off games in a row, so he should be due. So for that reason, I'm gonna say I'm gonna win.
Pick yourself. Yeah, I like it. I agree. The Drew Brees Kamara against Tampa Bay. I mean, that's going to be the heart of Joe's team. When I played Joe, Drew Brees and Kamara in the first half, the Saints had 5 touchdowns, and Kamara and Brees had 6 total. Yeah. And those are things that that can add up for Joe getting 60 points from 2 players just because they're both going off. You definitely, obviously Brees kind of has the upper hand on Luck, even though Luck's been, doing well. And like you said, there is kind of a split at running back. You don't really know. Saquon and Kamara are pretty much even, but Lindsey's been doing well for Joe recently. I would definitely give you the edge up in wide receivers. I think Joe's wide receivers are hurting. Joe will definitely say Kelsey's the best tight end, but I don't think he realizes how good Ebron is. Statistically, maybe he has the most points, but Ebron's getting an insane amount of end zone looks. And he's got 12 touchdowns.
He gets a ton of targets and catches.
Yes.
In most of his games.
Yeah, and I don't even think he's the starting tight end.
No, he is now because Doyle's hurt.
Okay.
So that's another big thing that's playing in my favor.
And I like Lamar Miller a little bit more than Spencer Ware. I just think
Spencer Ware's he's an unknown.
Yeah.
So, right?
And obviously having Kareem Hunt, I know you've been scouring for the backups. It's interesting that you're going with him over Gordon or Edelman. I guess the Ravens rush defense hasn't been the strongest, but the Ravens defense has been pretty good, and New England's playing Miami.
It's I don't know. We'll see what happens when I actually finalize my lineup setups and see how things go with the free agents and everything as well, because I'm still looking to make some micro adjustments as we get toward the game time.
Yeah, and Joe, I'm
hoping Le'Veon Bell comes in and finds some eligibility and is able to play.
Yeah, even though he could. Yeah, he could. Yeah. Probably not. I like Joe's.
They could redo the entire collective bargaining agreement.
Yep.
Make him eligible. Get him signed on a team.
Yep. And play. And yep.
Yeah, right. He could get plugged into Kansas City just like that.
Yes. No, I totally agree. I don't like Joe's defensive kicker. I feel like that's been a weak spot for him. He's kind of been dropping and picking up. And obviously you got Legatron and Texans D, and Texans have been absolutely hot. I'm taking you.
Yeah, but I got the Texans and I got the
Andrew Luck, sure. So you just got to hope for a pick six or something. Nothing terrible.
Yeah.
But I like your team, Sean. I think you're going to win this game. I just think that Joe's team relies a little bit too much on Brees and Kamara, his receivers. Not too much depth there. And Philip Lindsay's been a little hot of late. I guess he does have some good matchups. They're playing San Francisco, and Brees obviously playing Tampa Bay. But I think your matchups are also pretty good, and I'm taking your team here.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the line. It looks like he's projected to win by 1 point right now. So.
Yeah, it's a close game. All of the games are close. Also, real quick to my game, I think it's the lowest I've ever been projected, and I think this is the first time I've been projected not number 1 in all of scoring. But that's in hindsight, I'm gonna lose. But Sean, best of luck this week.
Thanks, Sam. Same to everyone else.
Yes.
Good luck to all the owners. Whether everyone's got something on the line. Right?
Yes.
Big things.
Mm-hmm. It's exciting. We still have opportunities for our first ever championships for Cole, Tony, Joe, Uncle Pat, and then some two-peats and even one three-peat and my dad. And if that happens, I'll probably quit the league or quit it. Yeah, or suspend him. I don't know. He didn't even draft his team. I think that's illegal. And
I still owe him a ring from his first championship.
No. Sean, thank you for coming on. Best of luck this week, and hopefully we'll see you in the next round next week.
It's a pleasure. Good luck, guys.